I might say, nobody doing it better. Y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles. Got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the Team WSN.
Shout out Young Swish.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network, TWSN. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-hosts as always. We've got Evan, we've got Logan.
Come on.
We've got a jam-packed show, lots of stuff to get into, lots of stuff to talk about. But before we do, as always, if you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. Boys, I had a very eventful day.
Tell us about it.
Very
What's up?
eventful. Yeah. I don't want to dive too crazy into it because it ain't mine's to tell. But I got a really awesome chance to sit down with to watch at least Willie Anderson and Andrew Whitworth and longtime Bengals offensive line coach Paul Alexander discuss stories from the past. It's really awesome. We got some really cool stuff planned here in the city for the time for the upcoming season. And I'm just excited. I'm just excited to be a part of it. Like we kind of talked about it at a nauseating pace, I would say, when we first moved over to the TWSN studios, that you're going to see things be a little different here. You're going to see us be able to do more things that we weren't able to do for the city before, and a lot of things that I'm excited to kind of present and excited to be a part of. So special thanks to Marissa, special thanks to the team, special thanks to everyone who is contributing and being a huge part of that. I want to also remind you guys, every single time we go live or upload content, it's also simulcasted on the TWSN YouTube channel there. You can catch so many videos from all of our content creators and much more. But boys, let's get into it while we're here. Let's talk about it. I want to start off with, the winners and losers from preseason week 2. That's what I want to start with. Logan, I'm going to let you get this one started with us.
Yeah, I think, for me, it's kind of the guy we omitted a little bit last week. It's just Matt Lee. At least for me, I left him out of last week because he played at the end of the game, played against fairly, I don't want to say poor competition. They're in the NFL for a reason, but still just weaker competition than the rest. He was a 7th round pick that we all were pretty high on. He performed about what we expected him to with the higher expectations we already had for him in that week 1. So I was like, you know what? Let's see how he does next week. Let's see what more opportunities he gets. Let's see, just how the week goes for him. And he was awesome yet again. I think that's everything that everybody kind of said about him post-draft, being super high on him. How's he in the 7th round has been confirmed. He's been absolutely unbelievable. There's no doubt about him really making the team and he could even potentially make an impact. Hopefully we don't need him to, but it's nice to have that depth in the interior, especially at a center position. Who knows what happens if a guard would go down, if they'd let him slide in there or move Ted up, whatever it is. But regardless of the fact, it is awesome to see a 7th round pick. Just, you don't want to say he hit already, but you're feeling really good about a 7th round pick, which is how good teams are going to stay good. You have to find contributors late in the draft when you're going to be paying people a lot of money, and that's pretty much what they have with Matt Lee. And another guy that kind of continues to fit that mold too is Tanner McLaughlin. He's not really necessarily getting that early run yet, but every time he's on the field, he's making plays, he's making chunk plays, and he just looks apart. He looks athletic, he's moving well, he's looking like everything people kind of thought he was. Yes, he's still a little bit older and all these things, but he's still out there making plays, and those are two people. I was very high on McLaughlin coming out. Matt Lee, I'm not the biggest O-line person in the world, working on it, but still, a lot of people liked him. So I'm not going to take too much credit there, but a lot of people did like him after we drafted him. So it's just good. Again, it's so important to have late round success in the draft. And it looks like so far that we got 2 good ones.
Yeah. Standouts for me, man. I know everybody's really fascinated with Jean Meta. But Shaka Hayward, man, has looked really good for multiple weeks now. Was out there for 37 snaps, ended up being PFF's highest graded defender for the Bengals.
It was a 90, right? Or
Yeah,
something?
and I think the key difference is that Uma definitely made some really good plays, but there were missed tackles. There were some spots where he was out of position, and I think it was 4 out of 5 targets he allowed a completion for an average of 7 per. So that's going to hurt you a little bit. Understandably, linebacker is very difficult to be able to be a guy who plays the run well and also covers the pass well in the hook and curl zones, and also can cover and cover the flat. That's if you can do all 3 of those things, you're starting. You're not in the preseason, right? So I don't want to be too judgmental of him there, but just to point out the fact that I know he's the kind of name that comes to the forefront of a lot of people's minds. But Shaka Hayward's been doing his thing on the offense. Jackson Kirkland getting some run at tackle and allowing 1 pressure on 33 pass block snaps. Matt Lee out there for 39 pass block snaps, 0 pressure allowed. Now, obviously, center, you're not likely to give a lot of direct pressure as a result of your screw up, but still good to see. Good to see him have that recovery, that anchor, that ability to move out in space, all the things that you love about him. But yeah, shout out to all the guys who I talked about it in the offseason, and I'm going to continue to talk about it when we were saying offensive line depth, right? They had tried the Jackson Carmans, the Hakeem Adenijis, the Christian Westermans. Like it feels like, and the Trey Hill even at this point, it feels like it's almost time to move on from that.
Unfortunately,
that iteration of your backup projects, right? And if your other iteration of backup projects goes from those guys from, who's the Ohio State offensive lineman who came in to play guard that they cut? Michael Jordan. There we go. To get rid of all of the Michael Jordans, the Jackson Carmans, the Hakeem Adenijis, and now you have Jackson Kirkland, Matt Lee, and Nate Gilliam, who are actually showing some things and actually being decent against starters and second string backups. Like now you have something to be excited about there, other than just like, oh God, here we go. Like, what can we put Max Sharping in there and he's our best swing backup guy? Like, and that's nothing against Max Sharping. That just shows the state of the backup position on the offensive line, that they were, thrilled to get that guy with just veteran experience off waivers. So, younger guys taking a step forward, man. That's definitely really big and can help them a lot when they are just sorely in need of depth on the interior and around the tackles.
Yeah, and I don't want to, hype up Jackson Kirkland too much or when I'm going to say this, but I mean, it was a long time ago, but he was a legit prospect for a while there.
Right.
I know like the early big boards, the early mock drafts and everything, obviously early for a reason. And again, he was in that first, second round conversation for a long time, and then he just had a terrible year, battled some injuries, and, it was, that stuff happens. But, it's kind of easy to see that upside with him, the height and everything that people have loved. He's got pretty good technique. It's just at the end of the day, it was once in there. People once thought he was going to be really good. Maybe he just needed some time to take a step back and, reflect a little bit. And it seems like he's coming into his own a little bit. To what degree the Bengals, agree with that or, think of him. It seems like they've always kind of liked him anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see kind of how highly they like him as we approach Cutdown Day.
Right.
Boys, I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all know I was running on fumes a little bit. Y'all carried the day. Listen, if I got to be a little negative and talk about who did not impress me, well, I'll say this. Let me start with who impressed me a little bit. Logan Woodside didn't impress me. I understand he's got to be better at blitz pickup. I understand that. I get that. But I feel like for what he had to work with at points, obviously, this offensive line the Bengals have is what I would consider a makeshift offensive line, right? Meaning everything isn't gonna, Jackson Kirkland. We haven't seen him play outside, tackle for the Bengals. So it's a little bit of a learning process, a little bit of little ebbs and flows. You kind of got to go through growing pain. So I want to definitely make sure that I give him his flowers and say that I think he impressed me a lot more than I know a lot of people were down on him for the fumble and not being able to pick up the blitz, but I thought he did a good job. I also want to highlight Chris Jenkins, right? Chris Jenkins had
got
a
him
good
a sack.
He got himself a sack, right?
Yeah, 14 snaps, I think.
Much better week.
We were not but I would say the majority of people were down on his first performance.
Yeah.
But I would say that interior defensive line is a hard position to translate over to dominate the college level and then be able to do it in the NFL. You're going to go through your ups and downs, and you got to just kind of take it on the chin. And I thought Chris Jenkins did a great job of bouncing back in the correct way. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there isn't too much too many bright spots outside of Matt Lee, right? Or things on the offensive line like a Jax Kirkland where we could say, yeah, the offense looked good. I mean, you put up 3 points, right? To me, I just think that just
it was a shame that Jake Browning wasn't healthy to play and just give you a decent look into what this, and Logan and I were talking about this a bit pre-show. This is why we always kind of laugh when people bring up like, oh, preseason record, like, oh, well, they're not sharp or prepared because they don't win preseason games. And like, that's a bad reflection on coaching. And like, I mean, guys, the preseason is not for winning, right? Otherwise you'd have Joe Burrow out there, right? It's for evaluating your guys. It's for trying new concepts and schemes that you want to kind of test things against very vanilla coverage that what you're reading and can kind of see what works, what people can do, but you're also evaluating the back end of your roster, right? So like the starters didn't really touch the field last week. And then they moved to the third string and then even some technically four stringers. And at that point, like after the second quarter, the rest of the game didn't really matter, right? Because it's easy to be like, oh, wow, look at the final score. The Bears blew out the Bengals. But at the same time, it's like the second string defense was holding the first string starters for the Bears. So if they don't come out and Jake Browning's in the game, well, is it suddenly a game? And again, like go back to the original question of how much does the outcome of the game matter? It's more about what you get for both the players and the coaches, putting stuff on film, like adding to your resume, seeing what these guys can do for when you're sitting here saying, gosh, can DeJohn Anthony and Dax Hill, Phil, and also Josh Newton, can they all fill in and kind of do that backup slot together? So now, is Jalen Davis someone that we can maybe not keep on the roster and we can keep 5 tight ends? And now we don't have to try and sneak Tanner McLaughlin onto the roster.
I feel like that Jalen Davis point there is one that probably needs to be talked about a little bit more that I haven't really thought about.
So it's that. It's slot corner and it's safety too, because I look at Tyson Anderson and I know some people think he's safe, but when you're coming off the injury and now if you have a guy like DeJohn Anthony who can play safety and nickel, now it's suddenly like, oh man, if we can save that, we can keep another offensive lineman, we can keep another defensive lineman and have that space, especially when so many injuries are popping up. Do you want to keep a 5th linebacker? Are you happy with what you've seen out of Omen Jean Meta? Are you happy with what you've seen out of Shaka Hayward? Like, do you want to keep that 5th linebacker? If you feel like these are good players, I feel like nickel corner and safety are kind of spots where you can sacrifice bodies at this point.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. And, I don't want to say the receiver room's the same, but the receiver room's got a lot of solid bodies as well. That back end is, and even the practice squad spots are getting kind of thin. Just there's a lot of solid
if you
bodies.
Want to keep 7 or 8, you want to have them active. Like you got to be able to do something. Like you got to be able to stick on the roster, and that means you have to make a concession somewhere else.
Man. Like everywhere is kind of
right.
And again, it's the last preseason game tomorrow night, but this unfortunately there's going to be a lot of jobs won and lost on Thursday. Some opinions, stronger opinions, probably already made within that building. I'm sure. I highly doubt their performance is really going to sway them one way or the other at this point. But it's important for these guys to go out there and either show them one last effort, or if they're going to stick on their practice squad or whatever it is, they got one more game to do it.
Right. I think the important thing to remember is these guys are not just auditioning for the current team; they're auditioning for the opportunity to play from other teams. I mean, I will say this though: John Meta better make this roster. That's what I will say. John Meta better make this roster.
I agree.
I'm hoping that he does make this roster. I think that he's shown a lot. Bocce. Again, another guy showing a lot. Shaka Hayward, I talked about him last week. I'm happy that Evan highlighted him again because that is something that kind of started to slip my mind a bit. Shaka Hayward looked good. Shaka Hayward looks good. I think suddenly I feel a little bit better about the Bengals' depth on the linebacker position, the linebacking room.
That turned quick. That turned real quick.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, I just think that this is the kind of the extended looks that you want these guys to get. Now, admittedly, I would say, even though it is preseason, I wish we did see the offense do more. Just because you want to know that you have capable bodies in the room. But again, it's preseason still, right? It's a lot to take from you. You just shouldn't take everything from preseason, especially when it comes to like wins or losses or even scoring a ridiculous amount of points. But I would say that there were some bright spots, but there were a lot of there were some things that they need to clean up. One thing that was very interesting to me is that the NFL or the powers that be, I would say, will go out of their way to try to like highlight, their star-studded quarterback, or, I want to put this into context. Buddy was going up against third stringers or guys who weren't even going to be on the team, and he was struggling a lot at points. Did he make some good throws? Yes, he did. I'm not here to hate on Caleb Williams at all, but I saw some people getting a little carried away with that, and I'm just like, okay, like he did what he rebounded nicely, but he started off very, very shaky.
Mhm.
And so again, you take what you will from it. Let me ask y'all a question real quickly. Ryan Sparks in the comment section again said, "Can we take a moment to remember the dream of Deshaun Maxwell?" Well, I'm sure we will at some point. But what I will say is, what do we think? Yeah, Logan does stay dripping. I agree. Shout out to Evan Holt, Saint Swagger. That's his shirt. That's his clothing brand. That's his clothing line. So he's a huge Bengals fan. You guys give him a follow out on Instagram. But let's talk about Ryan Rico.
Rico.
Oh,
Rico.
I just said this. I had it last week and I lost it. What do you guys think of his performance?
I mean,
Yeah, Evan's already shaking his head.
you'd like to see more for somebody who had an opportunity to really,
Sees the job.
somebody just needs to take the punter job and just go, man. Like, I just wish somebody would come here, punt good, and you'd just be like, yep, that's it. Instead of just, maybe, I guess. I don't know. Like, it's pretty frustrating. And I know it's like, I feel a little nitpicky talking about wanting a punter to come in here and, do good, but it's really held us back these last couple of years, and it's getting real annoying not having just an average one. And so, I mean, Evan, you were shaking your head, so what you got?
Yeah, just looking at out of 39 punters last season. Sorry, there's a couple ties there. 40 punters last season. Actually, let's go back to the regular season, not preseason. Okay, 33. The average hang time, the worst in the league, was 4:04. Ryan Rico in last game was 3.78.
Oh my God.
That's a significant difference when the difference between like the 10th best punter and the last punter was 4:04 to like 4.28, 4.29, right? The best is 4.72, and hang time doesn't necessarily make for a great punt all the time, but it is important because it gives your team time to get downfield, get in coverage, and that's important. We know the hang time was an issue of why they originally drafted Brad Robbins, because a low line drive punt really helped the Chiefs get a nice return in that game, and that's why it's a great, excellent reason of why a timely, poor hang time punt can really sink you. And like you said, for him to be out there and just have 6 attempts and just kind of have only one inside the 20, 4 of them returned, like just low hang time. It's just, you had an opportunity, like you said, to kind of seize this job. And I really think that Darren Simmons is probably going to look at this and say, you had an opportunity. You couldn't be consistent with the chances that you got back-to-back weeks. I think he's probably going to go with something he feels more comfortable in, Brad Robbins, assuming that long-term health is fine.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think it's just back to being Brad's job at this point. It is what it is. Brad's going to get another chance. Just don't mess it up, Brad.
So I think that you guys made up a great point. I think that if the battle between Brad Robbins and Ryan Rico is so close, and the difference being the hang time, right?
It's 4.38 for him last season, 4.64 for Robbins in the preseason this year.
I think we're all on the same wavelength here, and that's if Brad Robbins gets healthy, it's probably his job. Ryan Rico, I'm sorry, I think that was just a really missed opportunity. What a game to really, excuse my French, shit the bed. You got your only competition you were going up against, who happened to go out with an injury, and you have the chance to really make a case, right? Because let's face it, the coaching staff could have been swayed. And that was, understand something, that's a golden opportunity that people don't often get. Imagine that's like you and another guy both vying for promotion, and that guy goes out.
Go out there, you got 6 chances. If you do well on 5 of these, the job is probably yours.
And it's crazy. Like
it's tough.
It makes you think, was the moment too big for him? Because you would think that, he just left a battle himself, right, with the Chiefs. That's why he was available.
Right.
And, for him to not show up in such a huge spot, that I think that if you put a lot of guys that are hoping to get on an NFL roster in that case, they're going to show out, or at least attempt to try to show out a lot better. But you have nobody to worry about. It's just you and the ball. You have the chance to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be the guy for Cincinnati. And that's the performance you put forth. Especially that was the one question mark with him. Could his hang time be good? It was always the distance.
And that's your test too, for okay, pressure's on in the playoff game. Pressure's on in that game that you got to win to secure a bye week going in, or a top 2 seed going into the playoffs. Can you do it?
Yeah.
And that's, hey, your job's on the line. Our season's on the line. Can you be consistent?
Right.
Stay true to your fundamentals and under the pressure. And, I unfortunately, it sucks trying to draw massive conclusions from 6 total snaps, right? But at the same time, like that's what you have to work with. And honestly, the results have not been great.
I love what Gary Jellison's saying in the comment section right now. He said then that McNamara must have been really poor. I mean, because Austin McNamara was a guy that we were all really high on, right? When the Bengals when they signed him as an undrafted free agent, I was very shocked when he got cut, because I just thought that the good outweighed the bad, but I guess it was the inconsistencies it reared its ugly head. You know, they thought Ryan Rico was better suited to battle, I guess, against Brad Robbins. But yeah, I just thought it was a really unfortunate thing for Rico, and it was a really missed opportunity. And now Brad Robbins, he gets healthy. It's going to be his job to carry this thing home. We want to thank you guys so much again for tuning in and spending your Wednesday evenings with us. If you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWBSN studios. I also want to thank you guys. A lot of you joined our State of the Jungle chat. Me and the boys are looking to get more active in there, especially as the real games start to fire up. But I appreciate everybody asking us questions, being so fired up, jazzed up. We got a lot of questions about Jamar Chase's contract, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions about Jamar Chase's contract situation today. But we just want to thank you guys so much for supporting us, whether it be on the show or beyond. So we got some really cool things planned for the city this upcoming year. Maybe me and the boys might get a live show in somewhere. We don't know where you never know where we might pop up at. Wherever Evan says we'll go. Want to move on? Let's move the topic on over, guys. Let's talk about the training camp battles, right? Let's talk about some of the training camp battles. We kind of touched on it. We kind of touched on it already a little bit about the Robbins versus Rico. Let's talk on the cornerback battle. Again, I'll keep saying it. Everything that I'm hearing is Dax Hill looks like he's going to be cornerback too. It just looks like that. And that's what I heard before. And I know a lot of people are like in the comments like, well, every highlight that we see, you know, Dax Hill is getting beat. And I don't know if necessarily I agree with that. But what I will say is I think that Dax Hill has approached the position switch the right way. No pun intended there. I think he's approached the position switch the correct way, and how you would expect a young guy who essentially is being asked to play a position that he has never played consistently. You know, Dax Hill, he comes in with the athleticism, right? The speed. And I think one thing that really, really helps Dax Hill that we don't talk about enough is the ball skills. The ball skills.
It's the size difference too.
But wouldn't that be something, guys? Hear me out for a second. Wouldn't that be something if Dax Hill winds up going out there and making a name for himself at the cornerback position for the Bengals? Like, the Bengals might have just lucked into the best situation. And I don't want to speak too soon. Josh Newton really impressed me. And Josh Newton is a guy that I wonder long-term, what is his projection for the Bengals in terms of where would he be on a roster? And I love that Chuck 2624. I see you. He said, "Who-day the right way." I guess I'll let y'all know right now. There may or may not be merch coming that says "Who-day the right way." So, you know, credit to y'all selves for saying that and getting us. The State of the Jungle hats the dad caps are we're supposed to get them today, but I guess we'll have to wait a couple more days. I know Evan's going to be pretty excited for that, but we've got some really, really cool stuff happening. Still drop your questions down in the comment section. We're going to get to all your questions like we do each and every single week. But let's talk on the Dax Hill front. Dax Hill has impressed. Dax Hill looks like he is finding a home for himself at the cornerback position. And there are certain things you got to love, and that's one of them that I honestly got to love. I got to say I love. Evan, what are your thoughts?
I told you back in like May?
Yeah.
I was like, wake me up at the end, you know, talk to me when we start putting on pads and start playing, right? Credit to Dax, man. He, like you said, he has looked more comfortable than I would have expected any player changing positions to something they hadn't played since like early in their college career. Props to him for how he's looked. I also think there is a little bit of, hey, he's had more than twice the opportunity of DJ Turner in the preseason so far. So he has, to his credit, taken that opportunity and run with it. But But yeah, also like, hey, what's the great thing about DJ Turner? You get great positioning and elite athleticism. The drawbacks are he's shorter and has kind of stubby arms. So sometimes even when he's in perfect position, if the ball is perfectly placed, which is the case for many corners, you're kind of shit out of luck. But for Dax, he's bigger in the sense that he's 6'125", which is about 55th percentile among DBs. But where he's really lethal at is his wingspan, which is 92nd percentile. Like, dude's got pterodactyl arms. Like, it's way the hell out there. Good old scouting adage for that is he could scratch his ankle standing up. You know, that's one of my favorites there. So yeah, but yeah, so he has the physical skills, the tools that make DJ Turner good, but also extra tools that make him have the potential to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I didn't want to like approach that area of this conversation without having something tangible
100%.
to point to, right?
And one thing I want to just say, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, please.
I don't want to make it seem like, oh, like, yeah, I was right. I just wanted to say something real quick. I had a little bit of a leg up because it's something that I didn't know was happening, but I spoke to someone who in the Bengals organization that was a key, very who helps make some of these decisions. And I'll just say they had put me on game that Dax Hill was going to be moving a cornerback back during free agency, and that, you know, the safety room was going to be a position that they focused on. And when I asked why, they said he actually does better in man-to-man coverage. He just fits that better. The athleticism, the range, the ball instincts are all something that is something that they thought that would be translatable. To be honest with you, that's what made them think Dax Hill would do well at safety, at free safety. They saw the range, they saw the ball skills, and they said maybe put it all together. But what happened was sometimes information overload is a real thing. When you allow,
it's a lot different when you're like, look at the entire field, see the bigger picture, and then that's a lot different than, hey, read and react to this guy. Use your athleticism, use your skills, use your leverage.
This is going to be a situation where he can just shut off so much of the thinking, just allow his athleticism and all that play. But I will tell you, I did speak with someone as well, and they said, I said, is there an area of concern for Dax Hill at the cornerback position? They said yes, because his instincts are so out there. And I agree. I've seen this a couple times on film. I feel like, and they feel like, where he might struggle is sometimes he gets a little bit over aggressive, and he might be able to be beat on double moves.
The Kirkpatrick syndrome.
Yeah. But the difference is the athleticism is,
he has the catch up speed, whereas Dre did not.
And so I think that when I really think that Dax Hill is going to fit in there like a glove. But I will tell Bengals fans, if he is a little bit over eager, if he over pursues balls in the air or is a little too aggressive, allow him time. Remember, at the end of the day, guys, this is a new position that he's being moved to. And my quote of the summer is give grace. Give him grace. He's going to struggle at points in time, especially if he's dealing with a veteran quarterback. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Mahomes was able to get one off on him for a deep ball. That doesn't mean he sucks. I don't want to see a bunch of, I hope I don't see a bunch of, oh, Dax Hill sucks. Oh, I'll put DJ Turner and I'll do that. Like, just
corner
give him grace.
and O-line, man. You get beat one time and then that's all people remember. They forget the other 40 snaps where you didn't get targeted.
Just give him grace, because I think Dax Hill could really turn into something special. That's just my thoughts. Logan, what are your thoughts? I know you've been kind of chomping at the bit there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the whole Dax thing, like, you know, he's looked great. There's a bunch of great reports. You know, I'm glad the film's kind of matched in, and what we've seen from practice is kind of matching it. But I'm just ready to see how real it really is. You know, like, are they just going to give him the job? Is it DJ Turner's job? Because, you know, in sports and in life in general, like, positive reinforcement is such a thing, especially for these young people, these young athletes that are, you know, coming off of a lot of negativity. You know,
how old are you again?
Well, I'm just saying,
this kid out here.
Well, yeah, just in that, you know, just in general, like, are they just trying to build his confidence back up? You know, like how, and that's why I'm saying I'm glad the film matches, because he does look good. You know, he is actually playing, and it's, you know, it makes me think it's not just words. That's why I just want to see how real it actually is. Like, is it just going to be his job as DJ Turner? Not, you know, for lack of a better term, an afterthought in it. You know, like, that's just what I'm excited to see.
I can tell you this: they've given DJ Turner a lot of opportunity in practice to really earn that number 2 job. The inconsistencies have reared his ugly head. He has been regulated to playing with the twos, and I think it's one of those things where confidence is real. Okay, let's just start by that.
It is.
We can't just erase how DJ Turner looked at the first half of the season last year. He looked good.
Yeah,
but again, it's almost the William Jackson syndrome. William Jackson looked so damn good early on, and then I just think confidence can be, for whatever reason, could be shaken a little bit. Maybe you get beat for the first time. Maybe you get targeted, and maybe you just don't react the same. Maybe it takes a while to build back up. I haven't lost faith or hope in DJ Turner. He's still a young player. He is a young player, and he's a guy that I think that it's gonna be one of those things where when the opportunity comes, we don't know when the opportunity comes, but when the opportunity comes, stay ready.
I feel like
Stay
he's
ready.
like the running back who just doesn't have the prototypical size to handle the every down.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that he's a good player and a good running back. He just doesn't have the physical tools to be able to handle that load. And again, it's not that he doesn't have the elite speed or quickness, because he does. It's not that he's constantly out of position, because he isn't always. It's just, again, sometimes when if I'm 5'7", if you ask me to guard a guy who's 6'4" in basketball, like I can be Aaron Kraft out there if I really want to, playing
Aaron
defense,
Kraft,
right?
oh
You
my
like
God.
that? There's
What
the
a
Ohio
name.
State throwback for any Ohio State fans out there. But I could be fucking Aaron Kraft. It doesn't matter if the guy can just shoot over me, right? Like there's a point where physical limitations hold you back from achieving more. And I don't want to like give the kiss of death to DJ Turner or say that's going to be a bad thing. He just might be like a really good CB2 later in his career, which is fine. I mean, plenty of guys have made great careers out of that. Prince Amukamura was a guy who did that.
Prince
I'm pulling a whole
Amukamura.
bunch of
Oh my
names here.
God.
Kareem Jackson was a guy who started at corner, transitioned to
man.
safety, still kicking around at safety too. Shout out Kareem. So yeah, no, it's I don't want to say this is like I'm down on DJ Turner. I'm just saying, there's a realistic understanding we have to have that when you have a guy who has length and size and your speed measurables, you're going to have a hard time generally competing with that.
Yeah. Also, I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't bring this up. But this is a Bengals show. And,
I'm throwing a whole bunch of different
and
names
an
out
NFL
there
show as well.
besides
But I
that,
also want to make sure that I announce, if you guys haven't seen it already, and this will hit Logan more in the fields than it hits a guy like me or Evan. But Joey Votto just retired. Joey Votto just announced his retirement. Yeah, he said.
No shot.
Yeah,
You can
Joey
tell
Votto-
the difference in reaction.
Yeah,
from,
Joey
Logan
Votto just
there.
announced,
And he's playing the Reds.
Yeah, Joey Votto announced his retirement.
Oh,
He
man.
said
Oh,
he
man.
said he's only played for the Reds, and he loves Cincinnati. He announced it on his Instagram, and us being in Cincinnati, I feel like we wouldn't be a Cincinnati-based show if we didn't mention Joey Votto. Let you guys know I am not a big baseball guy, but
I've tried. Lord, I've tried.
Once what did it for me when they sent my guy Reese Hines back down. That's what really I'm kidding. That's not what grinded my gears. We're working on it. It's a work in progress. But one of the sayings, one of the catchphrases that I heard first time when I first moved to Cincinnati was "Votto still bangs." And I asked people, "What the hell does that even mean?" And they told me about Joey Votto. And then I looked into it and I was okay. I know what he means to the city. I did my research. So I just figured I want to give Logan an opportunity to say his words because I know he's a huge Reds fan and even bigger Joey Votto fan. So
Yeah, I mean that's not what I was expecting to go in here
Yeah,
and talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
today at the
let's get some
slightest.
hashtags Votto still bangs in the comments section. How about that for our
but
Cincinnati brethren?
But at the end of the day, when you have a franchise player like that was played his whole tenure with your organization and is gonna end up being a first ballot Hall of Famer, it means a lot. It's obviously, I know it's baseball, it's different for you guys, but again, he was the first person we handed out monster contracts to. He built a team around him. He had success with this. It's just it's what everybody thinks Joe Burrow is eventually going to do. Joey Votto was for the Reds. He was that first guy that really rolled in after we were bad for so long, put the team on his back, won MVPs, got MVP votes his whole career. He's just been the guy for a really long time. He was fun. He's a great dude. He's everything you wanted. He's personable. He's entertaining, and he was good at baseball. And I hope he's at the game today because they're playing the Reds, so we can say goodbye to all of them. But he's just a great dude. He's everything baseball's all about. And again, anytime you have a franchise player that's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, it's important to give
He's
him
got a
some
lot
respect.
of interesting off-field interests.
Yeah, he's an
feel
interesting
he
dude, bro.
Like, what's he going to do in retirement? Like, open a bookstore that also sells barbecue, and you can play chess there.
Yeah,
Like, I don't think that's.
You might also never just hear from him again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He could totally be one of those guys.
Yeah, he's just a great dude. He's great at baseball. He's great for the city of Cincinnati, and it sucks he retired, and it sucks he didn't really get to finish these last couple months here. But he went to Toronto, where he's from Canada, and tried to get out there and just kept getting hurt, and decided to call it.
Yeah.
Joey, man.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I figured that hit you in the feels a little
It
bit,
did.
Logan.
It did.
But
I was at his 2000
You
hit at
feel
the
old
game.
now? Yeah.
Well, no, he's like 40 something, but but still.
If you guys can do us a huge favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Let's jump on over to the main topic of the day before we start to answer your questions. Guys, if you guys could just do us a huge favor, guys and girls, start dropping your questions down in the comment section so we can get to them when that portion of the show happens, which will be next. But let's get to the main topic. Should the Bengals be aggressive during cutdown day or cutdown week of the NFL? I guess I'll start us off and I'll say, honey, like in the words of the dude from the old movie, I forgot what it was called, but hell yes, they should 100% be aggressive. I think that there are some, I think that there are some players, I think there's some positions of need that I think that they should still attack. And I'll tell you what they are for me. Defensive tackle is an area I'm still looking at. I know Mike Purcell of the Denver Broncos got released today. Reminds me a little bit of D'Amato Pecco a little bit. I think that could be a guy that the Bengals could potentially. I'm very curious to see who else might be let go, because when I look at it, the defensive line that we were talking about, we were so excited about at the start of the season. It's something that has been tested throughout preseason, and you think about injuries to guys like Miles Murphy. We don't know how long he is going to be out with the MCL sprain. You obviously lose Camp Sample for the year. You want to make sure that you have guys in there that you believe could get the job done, whether they be stopping the run, rushing the passer. I think that they can definitely use more pass rush help.
Mm-hmm.
Losing Camp Sample was a huge loss. You get your guy, Jeff Gunter, my guy, and Jeff Gunter retiring. So there has to be some real. There has to be a hard look taken at some of these guys that might find themselves on the chopping block of the team. And it doesn't mean necessarily that they're not talented, but maybe it's an over competitive field on said other team. So we'll get to the Samaje Perine too as well. I know there's a lot of people talking about Samaje Perine. I'm not as excited about that potential addition as some other people might be, but we'll talk it through. That's what we do about here on State of the Jungle. We give everybody a voice to discuss and have these type of conversations. But I think the defensive line is a position or area that I would say that I would like to see the Bengals add to. Offensive line is always something that you're scouring, but who else, who isn't basically scouring the offensive line market, trying to see if there's a guy out there that could potentially help their team. Evan, let's start with you. Is there anybody out there that you're looking at that you're like, okay, who the Bengals could potentially add, or maybe even position group? I don't want to put you on the spot and say a specific player.
Yeah, I know everybody is talking about adding to the edge position. At this point, like all the major free agents have been kind of signed. You saw Carl Lawson kind of trickle in. He signed with the Cowboys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
expected to, I think.
Yeah, and it's just the only guy you have is Yannick Ngakoue, and guys, like, he's not been good for 4 years, like really bad. I'll pull up the exact numbers here because I'm sure someone will ask about it, and later in the show I can bring it up. But it's not been good, and there's talk that maybe like Peyton Turner for the Saints could recently be cut, but that's not. Again, it's not anybody who veterans are not going to want to come here and have a backup role, right?
No.
You're Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, Miles Murphy, Joseph Osai. That's your 4, right? So you're talking edge 3, really edge 5, like the third edge. You know what I'm trying to say. Third string, 5th edge. You're not going to get a guy like Yannick Ngakoue, Justin Houston, those kind of guys. They're ring hunting. They want to go fill in for a team who just lost their D end and is willing to pay them, $8 million cash to be there for 1 year, right? So your other option is to get these waiver casts off, and we're going to have a much better look at that as people make that decision in preseason week 3. It used to be that you had to cut a certain number to get down to the roster that you needed, and so there was a gradual trickle of people being cut that you could look at. And now it just kind of happens all at once. So we'll have to look at some contract stuff. There's always some surprise edges, but again, if they cut a veteran, I think the veterans are going to be wanting to contend or go to a situation where they can recoup the value of a lost contract.
They might also just wait, those veterans. They might just wait a couple weeks for something to happen.
And backup edge is not that spot, man. And again, even if Trey Hendrickson or Sam Hubbard would go down, I think they would go next man up before they would go, we need to go sign somebody. And again, I just don't see them putting a guy that they just signed in the middle of the season out there as their other starting edge. And so, again, it comes back to you're going to be taking these back end of the roster guys that you're getting from other teams, which, you know, I mean, you guys didn't like Camp Sample. A lot of people said we don't need Camp Sample, whatever. It's not that big a deal. And it's like, okay, well, Camp Sample is probably better than anybody you're going to get. Actually, I can guarantee Camp Sample is better than anybody else you're going to get just off waivers. And maybe even Cedric Johnson is at this point too. Like, so it's not a given that you're getting a guy who's necessarily even going to compete with what you have out there right now, but it may just be you get lucky and get a Max Sharping type guy who just has maybe some hybrid versatility between the interior and the edge would be the dream. But, you know, again, we're shopping in fantasy land right now. So you got to kind of take what you get and compete with all the other teams for it.
Yeah, I think for me, when it comes to Cutdown Day in general, I think fans probably always expect more action than actually happens. And, you know, I think that's something I've learned these last few years because I always get excited when I see some people waved. I'm like, oh, they'd be awesome. Oh, they'd be awesome. They'd be awesome. They'd be awesome. But, you know, it is really hard to, you know, to make a roster that way because, you know, let's say the Bengals want to claim somebody. They already have who they think is their best 53. And then they have to bring in somebody that they haven't really necessarily worked with before either. So then it's that familiarity of, can we trust him to do this? Can you trust him to do that? So, you know, is he going to play now? Are we going to stash him? Like, how exactly do you want to go about it? I think there's always, you know, enough talent to warrant claims here or there, you know, whatever it is. Like, but it just never ends up being as exciting as I think people want it to be. You know, I think this is a lot of me just speaking because, you know, I've expected more the last few years and it just doesn't happen. So I'm just preparing myself for the worst this time. But in general, if I'm looking at a room, it's always been the running back room for me, man. Like, I know Zach Moss and Chase Brown are the guy, but like after that, I've never been a big Trayvon Williams guy. He's pass blocker, kick returner. Like, I just think, you know, there's better options that can be a kickoff returner. If he's, you know, Zach Moss is your pass blocking running back now. Like, there's not too much of a massive purpose that he holds anymore. You know, Zach Moss isn't on a long deal. Chase Brown is exciting. There's a lot to like there, but still, like, if somebody goes down, it's very hard for me to just look at, you know, Zach Moss and Trayvon Williamson or Chase Brown and Trayvon Williamson and really be like, you know what, yeah, we'll be all right. You know, that doesn't mean necessarily it's going to be, if we're going to claim this dude cut Trayvon Williams or whatever, however they want to spin it. Right. I think just getting some more back end talent in the running back room is probably a smart idea. You know, again, I know we wanted to touch on Samaje Perine a little bit. I would rather not be him. It's the same precedent that I bring with Trayvon Williams. He's going to pass block. Well, we already have that. He's not that great of a runner. Like, it's just, I want something a little more exciting, a little bit different than, you know, what we already have. If we didn't have Zach Moss, who is, you know, like just a better version of Trayvon Williamson, I'd get it. You know, maybe we go get a pass catching guy that can also return kicks like they want Trayvon Williams to do. Or maybe they just get a more of a power, but, you know, whatever it is. I just think it's a very easy avenue to upgrade over Trayvon.
I think it's also important to consider that it's easy for us to be like, oh yeah, go get, you know, this edge, that edge or whatever, but maybe they don't want to work together with the team. But if you have the situation in which you cut a guy is usually because the cap savings, if you guys go to overthecap.com, don't use SpoTrack, fuck SpoTrack, use Over the Cap. They just steal all their information from Over the Cap anyway. So why not just go to the source without the mistakes? Over the Cap,
catching shots.
They deserve it. You steal work from other people, fuck yourself. Ooh, that's straight
those
up.
Aggregators out there, talk your talk, Ed. Let's
go.
go.
Call that shit your own. Fuck you. Anyways, when you go to Over the Cap and you look at the far right, you know, the thing we always do with, oh, should they cut, you know, Joe Mixon? Should they cut this guy? Should they cut that guy? You have dead money and cap savings. The cap savings is going to have to be bigger than the dead money, right? Because the dead money is what you owe them after they cut, right? So you have to find unique situations where you have a player who represents, you know, maybe 2-3 times the cap savings that he does dead money to a team. So they save a good amount of money. Okay, there's incentive to cut the guy. But if he's any decent or any good, you get a guy like Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. They want to trade these guys, even if it's for a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, anything, right? They're trying to recoup value. And any of these guys that they are going to cut after that fact, if they don't think they're going to be on the team, you're talking about smaller and smaller amounts of money, so they're less incentivized to cut these guys. So it's really more likely that anybody available on waivers at this point is going to be performance-based more than money-saving based. And if they are, like I said, they're going to be bigger names that probably want the opportunity to jump with the team for 1 year and recoup their value, reestablish themselves, and then get another contract.
Yep. So when it comes to other positions that the Bengals could potentially add, I don't know. I see some people in the comment section talking about Izzy.
Honda
there
from
we
the
go.
Jets.
The Jets
Oh.
are loaded.
They have like 5 running backs, and I would love all. Dude, Zonovan Knight's missed tackle rate last year was
Ridiculous.
fucking nuts. Like, he forced as many missed tackles as Joe Mixon did on like a 10th of the carries. Like, it was, and again, that's not a slight of Joe Mixon. That's just anybody who's your average like tackle breaking back. Like, dude was just hard to fucking bring down. Like, they already got rid of Michael Carter from North Carolina, didn't they?
He's with Arizona.
Yeah.
And then they drafted Izzy, and then they drafted another back this year.
Drafted 2 backs
Didn't
this
they draft
year.
Braylon Allen,
Braylon
Is that
Allen
right?
and Isaiah Davis.
And it's like, what are you guys doing, man? Like, you have 5. Are you going to carry 5 fucking running backs? Yeah, if you're talking about running back, great place to look. Definitely the Jets.
For sure. I think the Jets can. I mean, because what are you gonna do with all those running backs?
You can't keep them all. You
Right.
can't keep 5.
They don't even run that much
That's
anyway.
Insane.
Right.
Like knowing that you have a pass happy quarterback anyway.
Yeah.
5 is nuts.
That's nuts. That is nuts. So I definitely could see. I think I would like to see them scour the market for a defensive line, running back. Obviously, offensive line you could say by default, but who really is releasing any quality type style of offensive lineman at this point in time?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Is there any other position group that you guys are looking at where you're like maybe we didn't cover that we'd like to see the Bengals potentially add on to?
Interior offensive line, but that's a dream because you're not generally
like you
getting
just
rid of
said.
guys that
Yeah.
if they did, it would be probably like a, late 5th or 6th rounder type guy that was from a draft or 2 ago that they really liked, like kind of the Cody Ford situation. Where after a guy's been cast off from a team or 2, maybe they go, you know what? We still think we might be able to salvage a little bit from him. We like him for this, that, and feel like he wasn't used right. But again, this comes back to your national scouting team, your professional scouting team, because you're not just scouting college players, you're scouting the NFL constantly, trying to figure out where are these guys. You have people going through. I went through 5 teams right already while Logan was talking, trying to figure out, hey, are there any potential guys who the money makes sense and suddenly they're gonna get cut? And the only one I saw in like 5 teams was Spencer Brown, who was a right tackle for the Bills. And their O-line is bad enough that I don't think they really want to cut anybody like that. And again, that's Spencer Brown. Do you know who he is? Because I don't. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. Where again, that's the level of player you're going to get. So I don't think anybody's going to come save the nose tackle spot and just make it a non-issue. I don't think anybody's going to come and just fix the D-line rotation.
No.
Like, I don't think that's what you should set your sights for.
Yeah, the only other position that I think there's some sort of realm of possibility. We kind of alluded to it earlier with how the back end could play out. But it would shock me, I guess, if they claimed a different safety over a guy like Tyson Anderson. If let's say they don't like where he's at, they're not too comfortable with Anthony going back there or something, and there's just a guy that they like, maybe they can, good special teamer like Mike Thomas used to be back in the day for us. Just anything along, that back end of that room that can provide great value, or just DB in general, maybe. But again, those things don't really come available too much anyway. If you're a good corner, if you're a good safety, those are pretty valuable in the league. That's really it. I mean, I would have said linebacker, but at this point, there's a good chance a linebacker we cut gets claimed. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
John Meta better make the roster. I'll keep saying it.
Yeah.
Oh, we said.
And even if Shaka Hayward doesn't, but
Shaka
he's
Hayward better make
played,
the roster too.
then if that case, you're probably cutting Joe Bashy, which means he might get claimed.
I think I'd rather have Shaka Hayward and John Meta over. Oh, this is kind of feisty to say. I don't know if I think I would take him over Bocce.
Yeah, I agree.
think I would. I think you have more juice. I think you have more on the table. I
agree.
I feel like, it's tough because Joe Bocce did such a good job for Logan Wilson on the Super Bowl run.
He did.
I think a lot of people played better than maybe what they were that season.
I also think that's, we've talked about it a little bit, but that's kind of an underrated position where maybe we work a trade for Joe Bocce. Somebody might be looking for that linebacker depth. That could be we just talked about it, just an area to swap.
Dude, let me ask y'all a question. This is just Malik talking to Logan and Evan for a second. Y'all really high on BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankins this season and from the interior defense line?
What do you mean high on them?
I love Evans. What do you mean
That
high?
answers the
Dude,
question.
do I expect to
answers
get
the question.
like the $10 or $12 million a year that you're paying for him? Yeah, I'm not expecting them to come out here and be Geno Atkins.
Yeah,
I'm not expecting Grady Jarrett. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other just like
I don't know. For me, I'm
defensive
uncomfortable.
tackle.
The thing
I'm very uncomfortable in that spot still.
The thing for me with them too is, well, one, I think the run defense is still obviously going to be an issue. You know,
I think you're going to be more of a gap shooting,
yeah.
tackle for loss offense than you are going to be. We're going to dominate the point of attack defense.
And the thing with, you know, Sheldon Rankins and BJ Hill, which could be looked as a good or bad thing. I think they both kind of make their money in like 2 or 3 games a year. Sheldon Rankins had what? Like 6 sacks. I don't know how much he had last year,
like
but 4 of them came against us. You know, and outside of that game, he was average to below average. So BJ Hill's kind of.
I want to push back on that. His pressure and win rate was good. He did not convert on sacks, but he still was winning blocks.
You know, BJ Hill's kind of the same way. BJ Hill makes big plays and big moments. You know, but outside of that, you don't really hear him too much. You know, again, that doesn't mean they're necessarily bad or gonna be bad, but you know, it would be nice to have a old reliable in there somewhere that you can just know is going to be solid, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And, you know, again, that could be a good thing. Maybe they both balance it off, or maybe, you know, Rankins converts even more sacks this year, whatever it is. Cause that's kind of how Trey Hendrickson was when he came over.
It was
pressure
was
king,
exactly,
pressure king. And
very
then
low snaps, high pressure percentage. And that was my concern. And hey, like Malik talked about it earlier, he wasn't trying to say like, oh, I'm right, you're wrong. I will admit when I'm wrong, guys. Like, that's fine. And I was wrong on Trey Hendrickson because I thought we were chasing sack numbers, which often are elusive and very conditional based on quarterback control and decisions for a variety of reasons, whether setting protections, holding the ball, throwing it away, looking for a play, et cetera, et cetera. And expanding that to a larger role, I thought was a bit of a projection for the money that they gave him, but it turned out to be a bargain of a contract. I was wrong, totally thrilled by it. But again, I'm not looking for you to be Aaron Donald, Quinnen Williams, Chris Jones. I'm asking you more to be like late career Fletcher Cox, like some like developing Christian Wilkins, you know, Kenny Clark, Jeffrey Simmons, Ed Oliver. I'm asking you to be that, right? Like I'm asking you to be
I'll take any
plus.
of those. I'll take any of those.
I'm asking you to be a plus
Hell
defensive tackle because what have you had outside of DJ Reader or Geno Atkins for that? Like, right? Like Larry Ogunjobi, I know he was serviceable, but like we can set the bar a little higher for these guys, I think.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
Guys, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in again. If you guys give this video a like, we have over 160 people watching us live right now. We appreciate you guys so much for spending your Wednesday evenings with me and the boys. Give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Guys, another week, right? We have one more week to go before the launch on this channel of the Sit Down Malik Wright in the morning. We'll be talking all things sports.
Yes,
we'll be talking NFL, NBA, UFC. My good friend Benjamin Albright will be joining me the first week. I've got a couple more other guests that'll be joining us the first week of the show. We're excited. This is going to be a talk show for the city. We'll be talking obviously about our Cincinnati Bengals. So that way you don't always have to wait till State of the Jungle necessarily to kind of get your fix. I'm even hoping to have the boys on at one point in time or another. We'll see if we can make something like that happen. But I'm just really, really excited. Remember, this show is going to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So you guys, hopefully you guys don't get tired of my ugly face. You'll be seeing me show up on your screen Monday mornings at all the time. And I'm just excited. This is something that I've always wanted to do, something I've always wanted to bring to the city. And the craziest thing is it doesn't even stop here. The big announcement, the big reveal that I have isn't even that, right? That's coming that week as well. Funny enough, the recording for that takes place on that Tuesday. So I'm just really, really pumped to be bringing all this new stuff to the city. I'm just really, really excited to really be going on this journey, because when I say I have always wanted to do a Monday morning a sports talk show, there's so much that goes on up in this mind. And I feel like sometimes when I talk, people think, oh, you have a hot take. I don't like to have hot takes. I have things that I believe in. It's like last year when I stood 10 toes down and I said, hey, the Buccaneers are going to win their division there. And everyone said, you're stupid. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's wrong. And they won, right? That's not a thing of, oh, you think you know everything. I think the thing for me is I always try to look at it from a lens of, I watch football a lot differently from a lot of people. I actually take notes when I'm watching and stuff like that, because I want to be able to go back and regurgitate things. There's so much in store that I have, so many ideas that I have. Like I'll give you another thing. Everybody's high on the Falcons this year. I'm not that high on the Falcons this year. I think that they'll be competitive. I think as long as you have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback, you'll be competitive.
We stand for Zach Robinson on this show.
And this isn't a Zach Robinson thing at all. This is just me. I don't see everything that everybody else sees. I'm all about I tell everybody this too. You have so many alternatives to watch Monday mornings wise, right? Whether it's the Undisputed or the First Take or whatever the case may be. I don't even know what the morning shows are. I'm so out of touch when it comes to it. But I want to give people an alternative like this, in my opinion, this show, we're going to be talking about real things that people want to talk about, not 100 million times. Will the Cowboys win the Super Bowl this year? Will the Cowboys win their division?
Is Dak Prescott good enough?
Man.
We'll see you in a week to say the same things.
Would you say that again?
So Dak Prescott, is he good enough for the Cowboys?
Right. Like
we'll
these are things that we don't want. This is a show for
Yeah.
the sports fan. I want to talk about things that y'all want to talk about. So this is why we're launching this morning sports talk show, to actually talk about the teams that are up and coming, right? I don't want to just talk about the teams that'll just drive in ratings. I want to talk about those small market teams, because the Bengals at one point in time was one of those small market teams. And, you know, and they are still our small market team in a lot of ways. But I'm just really excited to be, you know, embarking on this journey. I know my friend John Anik of the UFC will be joining us on the show at points as well. So there's so much in store for this sports talk show, and it's going to be simple to find. All you have to do is come to the YouTube channel the same way you guys do for Wednesdays, and it's going to be the sit down with Malik Wright. This will be a show for the people. Everything that we do on that show will be for the people. You will get your fantasy football fixes. You will get your betting advice. Daniel is coming back next week. We've got so much in store. And you're right, Benjamin Harrison. It's not going to just be recycled bullshit. That's going to be the best part of the show. It's going to be the same unhinged Malik. I'm still going to talk my talk. I'm still going to walk my walk. And guess what? We hope that you guys enjoy it, and we hope that you guys also join us for it. So let's get to some of the questions down in the comment section here, so we can get there. Fantasy wise, Gesicki, tight end 4 or 5. Listen, I was in my barber shop the other day, by the way. The guy did a terrible job, but I give him a pass. And I told them, I said, hey, listen, if I were you guys, I would look to add Mike Gesicki in fantasy football. I think Mike Gesicki is going to eat up so much red zone targets because I just think he's a mismatch. I think he's going to be a mismatch. I don't know if you guys have any fantasy outlook on Mike Gesicki, but I think he's going to really produce in this Bengals offense. Evan, I know you're usually the man with the stats and the man with the ideas and the man with the thoughts. Do you have any thoughts on Mike Gesicki fantasy football value this year?
Yeah, I think he's going to have a high touchdown percentage, but I don't know if that's going to result in high touchdown production, right? Like, I feel like you're correct that he's going to – when Burrow looks his way, I feel like they have a pretty good shot of having a good matchup. But I could say the same thing about T. Higgins, and I wouldn't say that they necessarily force-fed him, right? And tight end has been one of those positions that while it's been a safety blanket at times with Hayden Hurst and Uzoma, it's not one of the spots that I feel like Burrow targets very often. I feel like he constantly relies on his guys, generally either – heavily leans on T and Chase and gives them, 7-10 targets, or he ends up point guarding and spreading the ball around. And if you're telling me, Gesicki's going to have, 2 or 3 of those targets, maybe 4, and one of them's going to go for a touchdown, I could see that every couple games for sure. So I don't think he's going to blow a lot of the competition out of the water in the sense of hey, he's going to have 800 yards or 900 yards and, 8 touchdowns, and it's going to be crazy. I think with other guys mixing in, taking away, 200-300 yards with Tanner Hudson and with Drew Sample and Eric All even kind of being active and chipping away.
You think Tanner Hudson makes his roster?
Yeah. I think everybody likes him. I think
so. So you're cutting McLaughlin?
I think McLaughlin right now is the cut, or they keep 5 tight ends because of what we talked about earlier.
I think he'd get claimed.
I think Tyson Anderson and Jalen Davis are more on the roster bubble than any of those tight ends, except for maybe McLaughlin. And I think that would probably be, again, what we talk about. If you want to keep 5 linebackers, if you want to keep 5 tight ends, you have to make concessions at wide receiver and corner. And if they say, hey, our 1 through 6 is so damn good with Jamar and T and Yoshivas and Trent Irwin and Charlie Jones and Jermaine Burton, and then we don't even have to necessarily keep Shedrick Jackson or Kwame Lassiter. If they look at the safety room and say, hey, we've got Deshaun Anthony who can really back things up. We've already got 4 good safeties. We've got Dax, who also has slot safety versatility, corner safety versatility. Maybe we don't need to keep Tyson Anderson. Maybe we don't need to keep Jalen Davis because Josh Newton can also fit in the slot. Now you free up the 2 spots for them on the roster. So I don't say that as to be surprising. I say that as someone who sees that Tanner Hudson is your automatic Mike Gesicki replacement, right? If something happens to Mike Gesicki, who is your wide receiver slot tight end hybrid guy, right? If Drew Sample goes down, you have Eric All, right? If Gesicki goes down, Eric All can catch passes. He's not exactly that build.
Yeah.
And everyone just keeps seeming to say Tanner Hudson's always in the right place.
Yeah.
Tanner Hudson's always catching everything that's thrown his way. And I feel like that comfortability and the fact that he worked his way through, did well with the season, you always kind of lean toward the incumbent, right? It's familiar, it's comfortable. And so when I look at all that, that's what just makes me think Tanner Hudson makes the roster. But again, just going back, deep tight end room, tight end's already kind of not an afterthought in the offense, but I would say at least the third or fourth target on the team. And again, I feel like either high concentration of targets or it's going to be a special, unique game plan game where you'll be able to say, hey, their linebacker room is really, really bad against tight ends. You know, Cardinals, Raiders, they're two of the teams that have been the worst against tight ends in recent years. Maybe you have those very obvious fantasy matchups where you say, hey, 32nd in the league against tight ends. They give up tight end touchdowns every week. Just go ahead and start them. I feel like the games where he's going to be involved, and it will be a Gesicki game, will be easy to predict. So where you will have value with him on your roster. He will be a value pick in the 10th, 11th, 12th round, right? But I don't see him necessarily outperforming some of these other tight ends that are just going to have near every down roles.
Yeah. So I hear where you're coming from. I think if you have to, if we're comparing the two, if we're saying who makes the roster, and I know that wasn't the initial question, but I see a lot of people pushing back on your point when it comes to that. I do feel like McLaughlin would make the roster over Hudson, only because I feel like a lot of the things that we be looking for Hudson to do, I feel like McLaughlin can do, and I feel like he might have the higher ceiling out of the two. And,
for sure. He's 130.
Yeah.
Like, I completely understand. I'm just saying, how many times have we had this conversation where they lean toward the veteran, they lean toward the incumbent, they lean toward the guy.
I just feel like he was this year. I feel like when they re-signed Tanner Hudson, they re-signed him with the thought process of, what if?
But again, I think they keep all.
Yeah,
five.
no. No. I understand where you're coming from. Well, 6 if you consider the Cal Diamond, right? Cal Diamond.
Oh, the long snapper.
Diamondis, the
Nah,
long snapper. I hate that,
special
by the way.
team
I forgot to be honest. I hate that. But no, when I look at it, I say, I feel like you're almost in a situation if you have to cut one. I feel like they brought Tanner Hudson back with the thought process of, if we don't address the tight end position to the way that we want to, he'll just come back because he showed enough flashes. But now it's like, you see production from Eric All, you see production from Tanner McLaughlin, you see production, what Mike Gesicki is. It's like, we probably can move, especially if a team comes calling saying, hey, what would you want for Tanner?
I just don't think you can keep 5 tight ends on a team that doesn't use them, man. Like, I get it,
I
but
know.
I don't know.
No, it's gonna be interesting. Like, listen, here's one. And I think the spot that the Bengals are in, I think we all can agree with this. It's a positive spot. It means that this is probably going to be one of the more competitive cut downs we've ever seen under the Zach Taylor, era here in Cincinnati. And this is a good thing, right? You obviously don't want to lose good players, but if you're in a situation where you have to make a decision and say, hey, we got to cut a guy that's been productive for us, who was consistent for us last season, because
when you called on him, when you leaned on him,
he was there.
And he showed up.
Minus the little throw. Remember that play? That was abysmal.
That was Tyler Boyd.
When I say that, you have the opportunity to, replace a guy who did give you a solid. Who did give you solid production when you did call on him. This is a good spot to be in. That is the hope, right? When it comes to
means something to them. I think they value that. And again, right or wrong here, but again, how many times have we seen them go with, hey, you've got Brandon LaFell, and sure, he's not great. No one's scared of him, but like, we feel really good about him.
He's
consistent. Great for the locker room,
right?
And we know what he's going to do. Preston Brown,
that's how I feel about
Pecco, Ray Malaluga.
To be honest with you, that's how I feel about Trent Irwin. That's how I feel about Trent.
But that's the thing, right? Is Trent Irwin is like the high end of this, to where he's at least performing at like a high enough level to justify, like, you could probably keep him around even though the other guys have upside.
Can I just say this, right? Like, and again, I feel like this is why Evan is who Evan is, and this is why he's such a valuable member of the show, because like we disagree on things, but we also agree on a lot of things. And I feel like when it comes to for me, the way I view things, I always will look at who has the higher upside, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
I think that Trent Irwin has been Mr. Reliable, but it was like, I remember the other day they were talking about him one of the preseason games. Like, yeah, Trent Irwin has been just consistent. This is a guy that is such a key figure on this offense. I'm like, 25 catches last year.
I'm right there with you, because I
yards.
remember I was begging all last year in the second half of the season, dude. Like, Burrow's down, just put the other guys out there to get some experience. Why is Charlie Jones playing 34 snaps the entire season, and like 24 of them came in the last week or two? Like, why was Yoshibas not out there more? Why were these younger guys not getting more touches?
And so for me, it's very hard for me to see a guy that I know has a lot of talent.
Mhm.
I know he hasn't necessarily had the strongest preseason, but it's very hard for me to see a guy that has a lot of talent and a guy like Cedric Jackson. And, feel good about him and say that I know that he has a lot of potential, but I feel like he's one of those, like we saw Trent Irwin produce because he got the opportunity, right? He got the opportunity, whether because of injuries or whatever the case would be, he got the opportunity. He beat out Trent Taylor on this roster, right? And they were fighting for it. But I just feel like a guy like Cedric Jackson, such a special talent in terms of he's a burner. He provides something, right? And you might look at it like, well, Trent Irwin's been consistent. Trent Irwin he's the do-it-all. He's a utility type player. He'll do whatever you ask of. But for me, I would if I was in a situation, I'd be like, I'd rather keep Cedric Jackson over Trent Irwin. That's just me. And again, I know he hasn't proved it, but when I feel like the talent just outweighs letting him walk or moving on from him because you have a older veteran there that who, when you have called upon, you know what he is, but he isn't special, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I do want to point out here again, like I saw someone say, "Hey, show me the stats. Prove to me you can't get Tanner Hudson anywhere or elsewhere." And I want to reiterate that this is a 30-year-old tight end that got off the practice squad. I'm not going to bat and saying he's like amazing.
has to
He's
be on the
the
roster.
we know
the
you're
next
not.
year tight end,
Yeah,
right? I just want to reiterate this before I say what I'm about to say here. I agree. I would trend when you get into like 3, 4, and 5 on the depth chart, trend toward the guys who have upside, who need growth and development, right? But just looking, like you said, like what are the numbers from last season? Well, out of 46 tight ends, Tanner Hudson was 13th in PFF receiving grade. He was, let's see, he got a lot of short targets. He was 10th in receiving percentage. So in terms of drops, incomplete passes, and stuff like that, he was 10th best. Yards per route run. How many yards did you get per opportunity that you were out there? He was 9th out of 46 tight ends. So like as a receiver, he didn't drop passes. He caught his targets. He averaged top 10 metrics at tight end position in terms of yards per route run and receiving grade. So like he was good. Like he was good. I was shocked that again, I'm not projecting for a whole bunch and everything after that and say, oh, he should be the tight end too, and he should get a lot of looks, and he and Gesicki should be. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying when I'm the Bengals looking from their perspective, which again, I'm usually a pure analysis, upside,
right?
Per dollar talent type deal, right? That's my team building. When I say put my Bengals hat on,
Who day?
You have a practice squad, the guy that you had around that worked hard, that looked good in camp, that made it to the active roster after injuries, that you then relied upon, who floated your passing game in multiple drives, multiple games,
right?
Like for your starter, for your backup. And he looked good out there, performed like a top 10 tight end. Again, I'm not saying that this is the right move, but again, I can understand why the Bengals could talk themselves into, hey, this guy put his head down. He did it the right way. We can send a message to the rest of our team.
Right.
And usually when you're talking about that guy, you're talking about a guy who's $5-10 million. This is a guy who's $1 million.
Right.
Like you're not, this is the easiest, like, hey, work hard. And there's an example of you make the team. Like that's the cheapest and best example you can get from it. Right. So like, again, this is not anything against Tanner McLaughlin or the other guys are saying that he has more upside, but again, guy worked hard, stuck around, jumped off the practice squad, played in big games, delivered, was efficient. What more do we want from him? He also cost $1 million. We already have young guys, right? We already have unknowns in how does Mike Gesicki fit into our offense and actually perform when all the lights are on, right? How does Eric All develop? How does he look? Is he 100% better off of his injury? Does he need more time? Like with multiple uncertainties between those two, and you have Drew Sample being just what Drew Sample is, I can understand wanting that bird in the hand of Tanner Hudson for the coaching staff, right or wrong.
Yeah, I also think, he was pretty good last year when given the opportunity to do so. But I also do think that, being a tight end in the Bengals offense, it's really hard to be bad. You're always going to have good matchups. You're always going to be an afterthought. You're always going to
running a lot more of the shallow
Yeah,
stuff.
and
Smith
yeah.
Jr.
Well, yeah, he was bad. He was bad. And there's a reason he's probably going to get cut again. But it's, it doesn't take much to truly capitalize on your opportunity that you have as being the Bengals tight end. And, we talked about the punting job earlier with Rico not really taking advantage of his opportunity. Trent Irwin has always been a guy who has taken advantage of opportunity. He just has never fucked it up. Tanner Hudson, he got his opportunity and he did fine. They didn't fuck up their opportunity. I still don't think he's a grade or anything. I'd still prefer McLaughlin, but they're just two guys that have just they haven't given the opportunity to anybody else yet. You know, that doesn't mean maybe that time's come for Hudson. Definitely not Irwin at this point. But again, they got their opportunity and they just never passed it up.
I see someone thinks that we were kind of poo-pooing on Trenton Irwin there.
Oh, no.
I want to make things clear about that. He is a quality veteran receiver.
For sure.
When we're talking about upside,
Mhm.
and again, when we're talking about you get to 3, 4, and 5 on the depth chart, right? The question isn't, is Trenton Irwin good? The question is, if you give 40% of the snaps you were going to give to Trenton Irwin, let's say you were going to give him 500 snaps and, 40 targets this season, right? Are 300 of those snaps and 25 of those targets better served in the long run giving them to Yoshi Voss or Charlie Jones or Jermaine Burton? Because in that case, when you get to the end of the season in the playoffs, instead of having Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and then Trenton Irwin, and also being like, hey, we've got these young guys, but we're a little unsure if they're ready for the moment. If you give Jermaine Burton 8, 9, 10 games to develop chemistry with Joe Burrow, what does that look like in that point? And again, like you said, I think that is a step down from Trenton Irwin right now. But at the end of the season, when you're trying to win games, when next season comes around, is it helping you more in 8, 10 games and in the long run to share some of that workload?
It's almost that saying that I've used before in a corporate setting. I used to work for a gentleman, and he used to say, well, I'm better than you. And I say to him, respectfully, I don't feel as if you're better than me. I feel like you have more experience than me. And I feel like it's one of those situations where Trent Irwin has a lot more experience than those guys. He's had those opportunities where he was called upon and relied upon for those, right? But if you give the young guys the opportunity to prove, who's to say that they don't show up? Who's to say that they can't be reliable and they're a younger option and they might do it and they might be a little more explosive at it, right? Who knows? One thing I will say about Trent Irwin, and again, I met the guy. He is awesome. He's great. Got a chance to speak with him at length. He's awesome. For
great
the team.
Hands, great attitude.
I'm just saying
everything.
This wasn't a shit on Trent Irwin thing. This is more so just saying we were just talking about long-term projection for some of these younger guys like Jermaine Burton. Because like if Jamar Chase, God forbid, were to go down for anything like that reason, does Jermaine Burton do a better job of replacing those Jamar Chase snaps that as a guy like Trent Irwin projected wise?
Well, it's not even just better; it's different. Like is the vertical threat you get from Jermaine Burton and what he can do with that. Tearing apart cover two, ripping holes in the seams, just getting downfield vertically and threatening vertically opposite of Chase.
Yes.
Even just having that outside versatility to where you can move Chase in from outside. Is that versatility and that downfield element and that threat to the defense that creates space for more other people, is that combined worth the safety and assurance that you feel for Trent Irwin? Again, it's not I'm saying one is better than the other or anything. I'm just saying those are your options. And if you're asking me to pick which one is better long-term for the team, I would say developing the young guys is. But I totally understand if you're like, hey,
let's do it now.
We got something for the first 3 games. Like, hey, when we have third downs, we're going to send the veteran out there for the first 3-4 weeks, right? Until we're more confident that Yoshi Voss can handle that role, or Charlie Jones is healthy, or Jermaine Burton's starting to pick up the playbook. Like, totally on board with that. I never want to sacrifice the development of youth for incumbent guys who are, let's be honest, it's just, again, some of these guys are just stopgap guys, and that's what their career is. And like, that's kind of the point where he's at right now, is I'm going to fill in the cracks of the roster. Right.
And I think he does so. Let's keep the conversation going. Matthew Heisman says, is Yoshi a starter for week 1? I assume so. I feel like Yoshi, Yoshi has had such a strong preseason, such a strong training camp, and Joe Burrow's talked glowingly about him. What are your thoughts?
I'm just laughing because I'm going to be my semantics guy again.
Okay,
like,
let's hear it.
Are we saying starter who like gets the inaugural snap?
Yes.
Or who has the most snaps?
Who has the who probably will get the inaugural snaps? Who will be listed as the said?
But that's the thing, right? If they come out in 12 personnel with Mike Gesicki attached to the formation, I would say, well, it's Mike Gesicki.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Drew Sample and Mike Gesicki comes out there and is attached to the formation and is their pseudo slot. Like, that's why I always hate it, because it's more about the play call, right? If you come out in I form, like,
well, think about it. Everyone playing the Patriots, you coming out in 12? No, I'm just playing.
Maybe. I don't know. Tune in to Know Thy Enemy to find out. Right?
Yes. Whoa, Know Thy Enemy. Tell them about that really quickly.
Yeah, we're just, I understand that, you all have lives. We don't. So that's where we can come in and watch all the games
fill the
that
gaps.
You can't. And yeah, we can fill the gaps in anybody's knowledge and say, hey, like, you might not want to watch every Raiders game with Gardner Minshew as the quarterback, or every Patriots game as they try and figure out what the fucking offense is for a change. So we will be doing all that for you. We'll be diving into all of the stats for these games. And so the week of, when we're playing an opponent, we will always have a special video to kind of break down and familiarize you with, hey, what are the opponents? Where are they strong? Where are they weak? Where can they be attacked? And just kind of familiarize you with some of the other players, up-and-coming stars on other teams, and just kind of, when you watch a game and go, oh, 42, who is that? Oh, yeah, we heard about him on the show earlier this week. Just something a little more to help familiarize you with the teams that the Bengals are going to be playing week in and week out.
Yeah, I'm so excited for Know That Enemy, honestly. Another thing I'm really excited about, so as a lot like we did last year, it'll be the same as before. I started this. I think I was probably pretty much one of the only people in Bengals community that was sort of doing this. But we doing pregame, going live after every single Bengals game, talking the game through with you guys, letting this show be you sort of your mouthpiece to talk the good, the bad, the ugly. If you're happy about something, I want you to voice your concerns. Never feel like in the comment section, I'm never going to say you're being too negative or you're entitled to feel how you feel. But as we did every single game last year, this will be a opportunity for all Bengals fans to come and talk things through. If there's any major news, we'll be live and we'll be talking about those things through. I don't get a lot of sleep during the season. That's just
only during the season, huh? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's just the reality of it. And I know there were some people asking, what would I still be doing a recap show? I know some people assumed that I wasn't going to be doing a recap show. That's not happening. I'm still going to be doing a recap show, talking things through and giving you guys that outlet for you. So that's something I'm really, really excited about. We'll be having nonstop Bengals coverage. And one thing I'm really, really pumped about is a little bit early in the season, we're going to start going we're going to start getting into some of these draft prospects a little bit earlier on, probably closer to like November, December. So that way, when the combine does roll around and we start talking about some people, man, well, you guys will get the opportunity to know who said players are. I know Logan's pretty pumped up and jazzed about that, but we got so much content with Parker Blake joining TWSN as well.
Shout out Parker.
Shout out Parker. We've got some really cool stuff planned in the pipeline with him. This is just going to be just a kick-ass season. We got so much in store. I actually, guys, we're already at an hour and 18 minutes, so I just want to get to two more questions. And if we didn't get to your question, don't think that we're ignoring you.
We just talk too much.
We just talk too much, and we have a little too much fun on the show. But the fact that we're talking and we haven't jumped into all the questions, that should tell you that we're the season's basically here because we have things to talk about. But I also just want to encourage you, if we don't get to your question today, you guys still can drop questions to us in State of the Jungle communities on Twitter. That's why we started it, because we realized that we don't get to everybody's question. We realize that sometimes you guys have comments and stuff like that we don't talk about. So make sure you guys join that on State of the Jungle, right? You guys join State of the Jungle's Twitter community, so that way you guys can interact with us and talk to us. If you have questions for Evan, those nerd questions that he likes to answer, he can answer all. He can answer all those for you. That's what this is for. So I want to jump to two more questions before we head out of here. And let me pull.
I feel like we should try and hit something on the Jamar Chase situation.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I feel like we've kind of neglected that a little bit today.
Yeah.
So, question on Jamar Chase.
I was going to say I got the reported numbers. If you just want me to read it out, I know we had a couple that were just kind of asking, what do you think about the reported contract projection numbers that he's supposedly asking for? So, is it Richard Skinner? That's right. Said that he's looking for a 4-year deal in the 160 range with 120 million guaranteed. And Justin Jefferson, for reference, just got 110 million guaranteed in his extension. Shout out to our good friend of the show, John Sheeran, who has joined us for a couple draft shows. He had a great article detailing the reason that everybody should calm the fuck down about this. We're going to explain. I've talked previously about how when you sign a guy with existing years on the deal, you can spread out the cap hit into the years to make it more palpable, right? When you look at this contract projection with what he has right now and spread the money out, the average annual value for Jamar Chase would be $31 million, $113,000. That is less than the average AAV, average annual value, of Justin Jefferson, $31,948,000. So he is going to be getting less per year of this deal, included with his deal, which you spread out the cap hit. He's not going to be getting $40 million a year. I know it just in our head, that's what it equals out to. And so we freak the fuck out and go, "What? He's making 35. Why would you make 40? No, the actual numerical average per year that we care about is closer to 31. The difference is he's going to be getting more guaranteed money, which less of didn't want to be the number one overall average annual value contract, but does want more of the guaranteed, which is kind of a trend that we've seen in contracts, which is I don't care so much about the theoretical money because of what good is the theoretical money when Tyreek Hill just signed his deal 2 years ago and now just had to rework his deal? What good is the theoretical money when A.J. Brown just signed his new deal 2 years ago and just had to rework his deal? That's going to keep happening for wide receivers where you do the fake money to reach a number, right? This is $31 or $31 million per year in real money. Okay. So I just want to, everybody calm down. It's not $40 million a year. It's more like 31. He wants an increase on the guarantees, which again, I don't care about for major players at key positions, left tackle, quarterback, wide receiver, defensive end, because you're not likely to cut your best player. That's when the guaranteed money thing kills you, is because let's say you decide Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson right now. That's where it kills you, where Russell Wilson, that was a bad investment. You've got an aging quarterback who you're not sure how well he does outside of the system, hasn't looked good, but then you give him all that guaranteed money. Well, that's why the Steelers were able to sign him for so cheap while the Broncos foot the bill, right? Von Bell, same thing. Carolina Panthers footing the bill because they owe him that money, so then the Bengals could sign him for cheap. That's when the dead money comes into play. So for quarterback, wide receiver, especially coming off your first contract, your rookie contract, I'm not worried about the guaranteed money at all. I would guarantee all of it if it really meant that you could save $5 million a year, which you probably could. But again, he's asking for more guaranteed money. He's not asking for more money than Justin Jefferson got. He's not really getting $40 million per year. I really needed to say that so that everyone can take a deep breath and relax. It's okay.
And one of the last questions I want to get to before we head out here, and I think you explained that beautifully, Evan, was how many games from Jordan? This is from just Jordan. How many games before Burton starts, if it even happens this year? Place your bets. Anybody want to touch that?
I don't think it's going to happen this year. To be that starter on the field that we talked about, maybe he'll play, that good amount of snaps, but I don't think he'll be listed as a starter at all this year.
I think that's fair enough. I think that's fair. I think that was quick, simple, and easy to the point. We want to thank you guys for joining us for another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. We want to ask that you guys do us a huge favor. We had over 130, even 160 people watching this throughout the entire show. If you guys can give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications. Remember, you guys can go back and watch this, any of the clips that we talked about, and you guys can also talk to us throughout the week. We've got one more week, boys. One more week before the NFL season is finally underway. I'm excited to be doing this with y'all. I'm excited to do another episode of State of the Jungle. But the thing that I'm more excited about is to do it our way, right? Because there is only one way to do it, as the right way, not to be cliche. But we appreciate you guys for joining us for another episode of State of the Jungle. Give this video a like, subscribe.